Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Come on in. Join the crowd. Or don't join the crowd. It's all good. Morning, morning, morning. Give me a minute. I am just sharing this around. And for some reason, it wasn't coming right up. There it is. All right. So, how is everybody? Please comment if you come in. Let me know that you're here. Don't be a stalker. Today is not a good stalker day. Don't be a stalker. Why does this keep going back to the same one? This is crazy. All right. So we are here. There is so much going on at this point. Let me share this in one group here. Woo. Let's see. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Now we've got that shared around. I was getting a little grief. I had not been sharing this in my onward group. I thought I had been. I thought I had been hitting the button, but obviously the button was not being hit. So hopefully that works and it is where it should be and people will jump on. You know, freaking Facebook likes to do that thing, where they don't tell you, they shadow ban you, they don't want you. And you know that Facebook does not want me talking about Jesus. You know that, right? It's all good. It's all good. What they miss, hi, Stephanie, how are you, honey? What they miss is that we're talking about life, man. We're talking about issues. We're talking about everything that everybody has. And we're trying to help people through that. And today, the devotion today was one of those, and I think it's a lot of times this way for me, but definitely is one of those that kind of, when they hit you like bam, right in the head with a 2x4, kind of like. Yeah, it did, because this works. This happens. I don't care if it's in life. I don't care if it's with your family. I don't care if it's with friends. I don't care if it's in business. This happens, especially customers. This can happen with customers too. This can happen with so many people and so many circumstances. So that's why I say a lot of what I talk about on Tuesdays is life and sometimes issues with life. But the truth of the matter is that sometimes the only right definition that makes any sense to me is to shoot straight from the hip from the Bible and just say, what would Jesus do? We all had in bands at one time or another. What would Jesus do? How would he handle it? How does he want us to handle stuff? And it's hard, especially now. A lot of people right now have a whole lot of things that are going on. Things like people sick. A lot of people having heart issues right now, and God love them. We just pray. Janae's stepdad, but her dad was rushed to the hospital, had some sort of infection. Apparently, through all of this, it kind of went to the heart. It was really, really touchy there for a while. But the last update that I have seen is that he has been moved from ICU to a regular room, and that the meds and the antibiotics are definitely helping the infection and hopefully the stuff with his heart. He's on the road to recovery, and I have to believe, look, I am a person who, I will tell you, I am a massive believer in the power of prayer. And I believe God hears everybody, even those of you who go, well, I'm still trying to figure out this God thing. But what I do know is when bad times hit, when somebody that you love is in trouble, when something is happening in your life, it seems like the first place people want to do is, God help me, right? That's what happens. And I don't think he frowns on you for that. I think he's just glad that you finally decided to talk to him. So I'm not here to judge you at all, not at all. But there's a lot of things going on right now with people being sick and heart issues, especially. I feel like I'm running around with all these heart issues left and right. People that I know who are younger than me, who have just died with heart attacks and heart issues. And um, I had a young lady last night who messaged me very late and let me know that she had just been diagnosed with breast cancer. And we're hoping that they caught it early. And I'm not, it's okay, guys, to just, God knows who you're talking about. So when you're making your prayer list, and when you're trying hard not to make the prayers all about you, right? Have you ever been that person? Like, I don't want this to be all about me. That's probably not the way to pray. Put these people on your prayer list. There are people out there that when you're worried about that person who hurt your feelings, somebody else out there is worrying about how they're going to beat cancer. Somebody else out there is getting ready to go in for a surgery. Somebody else out there just lost a parent or a child or a loved one. Somebody else out there just lost their home. Believe me, when you think that life is difficult, that business is difficult, that relationships are difficult, you stub your toe and it's a bad day, right? There is always, always, always things out there that are much worse. And suddenly it makes you look at things and say, you know what? I'm not really doing as bad as I thought I was doing. You know what I'm saying? It's not really that bad. That keeps me in check so many times in life, that there are people out there who have it so much worse than the thing that I'm talking to God about, right? I also heard something today which doesn't have anything to do with the devotion, but I heard something today that somebody said, you know what? Do you talk to God like Siri talks to you, like Alexa talks to you, right? Are you that person that it's kind of like, hi God, this is me, this is what I need today, thank you very much, in Jesus' name, amen. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are people who just do that. It's like this whole thing of running around. Thanks, baby. I was wondering if you were going to jump on here. Thank you. It's one of these things where you just let me just tell him what I want. Let me just tell him what I need. Let me just tell him where I'm hurting. Let me just get it on out there. But there's no conversation. There's nothing, like he was talking about this morning about, when I was little in Sunday school and I was learning about Moses, right? I learned about the Moses that, he was a great leader and he went to Egypt and he was part of freeing the Israelites, all that stuff, right? Like he was like the big brave, like he was, like everybody wanted to be Moses. But then there's that part that we always skip. We say, oh, God talked to Moses in the burning bush. Like that bush was in, that burning bush was kind of like, fierce and scary. But here's the deal. Have you ever really read the conversation in the Bible that he had with God? God said, I want you to go. I want you to go to Egypt. Go. This is what you're going to tell Pharaoh. You go. You go. And he kept saying, God, can we talk about this, God? Like, I just don't think I'm the person. I don't think I'm the person, God. Like I don't talk well. I stutter. I can't keep two thoughts together. I'm just saying, God, not today. Don't pick me today. Don't pick me today, and God's kind of like, I guess he didn't hear me. And don't worry about it. I will give you the words to say, Moses, but I need you to go. I'm telling you, you need to do this. But God, come on. God, seriously. I don't think I'm that person. I just don't. I think that there are many, many people who are braver, great talkers, great speech giver. And I mean, he was like trying to talk God out of what God knew he already wanted him to do. When I think about this, I think all these people who are our biblical heroes, right? Because that really is how I thought about him. And I thought, isn't it amazing that like when you're talking to God, so many times we think, just ask him for what you want. Just do this, like he's some genie in a bottle, which absolutely I don't get the majority of the time. But I think what's really funny is we've all been guilty of that, even me. God, I'm having this issue right now. God, there's a financial need right here. God, this is what's going on. God, can you fix it? But like, when is the last time I just went to God and just simply thanked him for something? And I'm the one who does. Look, you know how you can tell if you have a relationship with God, if he's your friend, if Jesus real. I got to tell you something. No, look, I hold him in the highest reference, right? But see, I have these conversations with God like I'm having with you right now. Like, I'm the person who's like, look, Lord, this and this and this just happened. I don't even know where you think this is going in my life. I'm going to tell you where I'd like it to go, God, but this is kind of bothersome right now. This is stressful right now. I don't know how to handle this right now. So if you could just take that away, that would be awesome. And I figure out that God very much is not taking it away. Why? Why? Because God needs me to go through that struggle, and he's going to let me go through it in order to show me something much better. In order to show me how brave I can be. In order to show how much trust and faith I most certainly have in him. I think that right there is a huge thing. That right there is like real conversation. And even when I don't like that, look, I'm known to get off on an exit that God did not call for me to get off on. It's like, okay, I'm going. Here we go. Exit 39. That's God's exit right there. Exit 39. I need to get off on here. And here I am. I am up on exit 36. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look, Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A. Look at that. Oh my, we're going to stop right here. Let's stop here right now. Let's stop here. Hold on. There's something. God had something much bigger for me at exit 39. But I chose to get off here and take my own route, right? Now, the Chick-fil-A was good, there ain't no doubt. But have you ever been that person? That person who just, you're really not following what you need to follow. It's just that simple. You're not. That is where a lot of us are. Sometimes we'll ask God, God, please, could you touch this person? Could you heal this person? And you know what? A lot of times God comes through. He puts the right doctors, the right medicines, the right hospital, the right everything in, and this happens. And there is healing. There are other times that the stress in a situation like that will absolutely teach you not only who somebody else is, but it will also teach you who you are in those times. And for me, I am always looking back. I am always looking back and replaying how I handled something in my head to say, what could I have done better to handle something better? And the truth of the matter is, a lot of the times, I have absolutely found ways that I can handle things better. Sometimes, matter of fact, most of the time, Lee tells me this all the time, that when you make a decision based on your emotions, what you're feeling at the time, it's probably not going to be the best decision you've ever made. I have learned in probably the last 3 to 4 years especially to wait, pause, and take the emotion I'm feeling out of something to make a solid decision 100% of the time. And that's not always easy because I can tell you I can be highly emotional. I am that person 100%. But it's definitely not always how to be. I think that sometimes when we're talking to God, I think the problem is we don't talk to him enough. I have been guilty of that. I've had a day that's been so busy, especially here lately in the last few months, that here I am, I'm tired, and before I know it, I just fall off. And what's funny is I wake up going, man, God, sorry about that. I knew what my plan was, and I fell right asleep. I did. God knows, but what it has shown me is maybe I need to stop sooner in my day. And you know what? Maybe I need to give God 10 or 15 minutes. Maybe I need to let Him know what I'm feeling. Maybe I need to open up my Bible or my devotional and see exactly what He has for me. And to be quite honest, yes, baby, you are. You're the analytic. You are the yin to my yin to my yang. Isn't that the truth? 100%. Um, Sometimes I truly believe that we have to make the time for the things that are most important. We have to make the time to reach out to somebody who may need it. And, again, this has happened many times. What we're going to read about today, what Liza has for us today, when giving grace feels hard. I have had a few conversations here with different people over the last 72 hours who are absolutely struggling with this. And I got to tell you, I feel like grace is probably needs to be one of my fortes. I probably am the person who I might even give grace too much. That I'm always trying to give people who wrong me the benefit of the doubt that maybe they really didn't mean to. Maybe they didn't know that what they were doing was going to hurt my feelings, or what they weren't doing was going to hurt my feelings, or what they said, or do you ever wonder, does somebody think when they say something about somebody else to somebody else, if you knew that what you were saying was going to get back to the person that you were saying it about, would you say it? Because Lee and I have really taken that in our life over the last, gosh, probably 5 or 6 years. It has not always made us very popular, not with family, not always with friends, and definitely not with the outside world completely. It really hasn't in my businesses either. Let me be honest, because when I am honest, when I do say something, absolutely, if I have said it to you, if I have said it in a group, and then you're going to come to me, I am absolutely going to say it to you, because that has been something we felt like is a good thing. I'm not saying you can't have a confidant. I'm not saying that you can't have somebody you can blow steam off with. I have that. I have that in my husband. And I'm very thorough. Like, look, I need to tell you this because right now I just need to vent. This doesn't go anywhere else, but here it is. But at the same time, sometimes when I'm saying something to somebody who isn't my somebody, I am very guarded about what I say or what my opinion is, unless I would be willing 100% to also say that to that person. See, that's where the world has gone horrible in this age of social media. Everybody will talk their smack behind their keyboard, right? They have no problem trashing every country music star, every movie star, everybody, or they'll see a post of somebody. They don't even know the person, but they will come on and be the meanest somebody. But let me tell you something. I can guarantee you that if they were standing right there in front of that person, they would not say a dang thing. And that I have no respect for. I just don't. If what you're speaking is truth and just not you wanting a platform to be Billy Badass, for lack of a better word, then you know what? I don't care what you have to say. And I don't believe that being mean and being hateful, I don't believe that goes anywhere. The truth of the matter is, it's amazing. Have you ever realized like somebody's following somebody that you didn't know was following somebody, and all of a sudden that person shows up in your feed, their comment underneath there, and do you know how many times that when I am reading an article on Fox News or whatever that looks like, something that's popped up that I didn't go to, that I'm scrolling through on social media, and what pops up, what somebody has placed underneath this article, and what they're saying, and I end up doing this. Like, in my brain, that person could never come across that way. Like, in my head, that person, the person I knew, would have never said anything like that. Ever, 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 ever. Right? Oh! And yet, they did behind their keyboard. Sometimes, I guess it can show somebody's true colors. And sometimes I just have to place it in a box over here and say, that's not the person I know. But at the same time, I'm like, how can me and this person be so in tune, but yet we're not? Well, this is where grace comes in. This is where I have learned, and so many times in my life, that I have had to extend grace. And sometimes at the hardest moments, giving grace is so difficult that you feel like you have been hurt by this person numerous times, that you feel like this person has taken advantage numerous times, that you feel like this person really has not brought value into your life numerous times. And the reason that the people keep doing it is because, number one, you're lacking the one key element in your friendship, in your business relationship, in your personal relationship, whatever that looks like. You are lacking honesty. And I don't mean honesty that can hurt, but honesty about what is hurting you. Honesty about how it makes you feel when somebody does something. Oh, I can't do that. If I do that, this person may not be in my life. So the subject to all of this is to let somebody be in your life that brings so much misery to your life. So they're never going to change because you never tell them there's an issue. Yeah. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me now, but it made sense to me years ago when I used to do the same thing, especially with family. That it didn't matter how I felt when I left them after spending time with some people in my family. And I thought, my gosh, I can't believe that I just spent all that time. But yet what I should say is, that makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't agree with you on this. Maybe you're just venting, but you know what? This isn't how I feel about this person or that situation or whatever it is. And if that person doesn't want to hear that, well, you need to evaluate who the person is in your life that's bringing this kind of turmoil. Lee says silence often is confused for agreement. Absolutely. I can remember hearing something like that, Lee. 100% of the time I have that. When I used to tell my kids this, matter of fact, when I learned it myself, that sometimes when somebody is venting to you and you haven't made it clear that you may not agree with them, but you're sitting there and you're listening, that if you do not at least say something, if you are not in agreement, that person is going to take it to the next person and say, well, such and such believes that. I was talking to them the other day and I told them that. And guess what? Guess what? That's right. They think that too. Which technically is not the truth. But you said, oh, I'll just let them vent. But what they did is they took your silence as agreement. Not saying that you got to chastise, but I think 100% of the time you have got to be very clear, especially when that can be taken back, that you know there is no way that you may, matter of fact, you may not have an opinion on that person or that situation, but the deal is to say, man, I'm really sorry that's happening with you all. Maybe you should get together and talk about it. But when I say that, I don't mean get together and talk at somebody. I don't mean get together and tell them they got to see it your way no matter what. I don't mean, hey, Deb, good to see you, girl. I don't mean go to somebody and say, this is how it's going to be. That is not talking. That is not sharing. That is not listening to both sides. Look, do you know that there is this thing that says you can agree to disagree? And do you know it's beautiful? It is beautiful. But our world over the last 10 years has been this world that says if you don't agree with me, that means that I should cut you off. If you are doing something different than me, then we should cut you off. If you are taking a different life step than I think you should take, then you should be cut off. Really? Do you think that's grace? Do you think that's love? Good morning, Roger. I was wondering if you were going to show up. Good to see you, dear. I have to wonder. Because in this deal, look, even political, and we're not talking about politics here, okay? But that has been the worst subject for so many people, that because somebody has a different opinion about politics, about COVID, about religion, about God, about what kind of food you should eat, about what diet you should be on, about what kind of exercise you're doing. I mean, seriously, people are cutting people off because they're different. They think different. Let me tell you where the first place is that you can extend grace. Love people regardless. I'm not talking about letting people come in and step all over you and, use you and all of that. No, 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 no. Everybody needs their boundaries. But for you to trash somebody and to block somebody and to try to trash people to other people because they are doing something different or believe different or vote different or see a time in history different than you do, or place God differently, there is no grace there. There is no grace there. There is no love there. And this is what really gets me. All the people who do it, and when you go to their profile and you look, and they're all professing to love them some Jesus. And yet my Jesus was the one that even though they whipped him, even though they beat him, even though they spit at him, even though they wanted to kill him, they wanted to stone him, they talked about him, my Jesus is the one who still willingly got up on a cross and died for them. That is grace at its finest. That right there. Roger says, AOL chat room training here. Roger, I love you. Oh my gosh. It is just what we've become. And I have always been very careful of that. I can remember going to events and me saying something in some of my groups and somebody coming up to me at the event and going, I couldn't believe that you said this to me, blah, blah, blah. And I immediately am like, why didn't you believe it? If you stood right here in front of me and you asked me what I thought, I would still choose. But I was so mad at you. I was so mad at you because you just called me out kind of in there. And I said, no, you came into a group space and I just simply shared what I would do differently. I never thought anything more about it. I still love you. I still want to be there to help you. You are still my people. You have been carrying this around because what? We thought differently about something? Oh, wow. Was it me who didn't have grace? Or was it she who didn't have grace? And how much energy did she expel? Just dragging this along months down the road until she saw me and she thought what? That I was going to deny it? She thought what? That I was going to say, oh, no, that's not what I meant. No, I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And if you prove me wrong, that's okay. Guess what? I'm still the person who's willing to say, shoot, I was wrong, right? I'm all about that because I have been wrong so many times in my life that I can only imagine. Imagine. I couldn't keep count. I'm going to be, what's today, the 11th? In 10 days, I'm going to be 61 years old, right? 61 years old. Can I tell you? I can guarantee that you can multiply that age by about 100, and I've probably been wrong or misguided or had wrong thought at least that many times. Do you know what that tells me about me? Or about my God? That I am really, 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 really happy that He has extended me the grace and the forgiveness of every time I've done something or said something that could be capitalized as wrong, especially if I meant it as bad or hurtful or judgmental. You know, I've shared with you guys many times that I came from a very, very, very judgmental world when it came to God, that we lived more by the rules of the church and not the rules of the God that I came from. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even know there was a difference. See, I thought if a church had rules, that the church was basing their rules on the Bible. And I don't mean cherry picking verses and basing the, I mean like based on the Bible. I thought all churches had to be this way, and everybody, was following these stance. And, then all of a sudden you get out and you look out in the world and you're like, nope, not everybody's doing that. What's going on here? What's different? And you figure out very quickly that churches sometimes get way caught up in their church rules. And sometimes they forget to add God to those rules. Because to me, the number one rule, number one rule, but two really. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and love people. Love people. That's what you do. Roger says, definitely fair. She always been amazing to me. Oh, Roger, I just love you. Roger, we go back so far, and I know we don't talk all the time. That's why I'm so grateful for social media, because it's how I keep up with my people who used to be my people more often when I would lived up that way. I don't think any of us have always spoken exactly in complete agreement. But we always loved each other because there was always more to love than there were disagreements. There was always more to love, and there was more laughs, and there was more memories than there were things to stay mad about. And I think right now we are in a society that wants you to believe that there is more to get mad about and less to love about. And I refuse. I refuse to be that person. And as long as God is letting me draw breaths, I am absolutely going to keep pushing the fact that you always have to look for the better. You have to. And sometimes you have to shift. In order to find that, sometimes you have to shift. You have to shift. Okay, this is what I've been thinking. This really isn't working for me. So what am I going to have to do to shift here? Because in order for me to feel like I am in the presence of God, where I am loving Him with all my heart and loving people, sometimes a shift is necessary. Lee says, I don't have to agree with you to love you. Thankfully, because he has disagreed with me a lot in all these years. I mean, I think Lee and I are going to be married, 19 years, I think, this year, baby? I think so. Yeah, because next year it'll be a solid 20. And there are many times Lee and I don't disagree. I tell him, he'll say something, he'll say, do you love me? And I'll be at a really, really not good moment with him. And I will say, I love you, but I do not like you right now. I do not have to like you right now, Mr. Bibb. I will love you always, but I do not like you, so get away from me right now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, sometimes that's what happens. That's okay. And so we're going to read about grace, and we're going to talk about Sometimes, when as much as you would like to show somebody grace, how hard that is sometimes. But I need you to know it's necessary, not just for the people you need to show grace to, it's necessary for you to grow, for you to let go of things, for you to become better, for you to learn, for you to be able to have God use you in the future. It is necessary. So let's see what Liza has to say about this, and let's talk about it ourselves. So she says, when giving grace feels hard. Now, this is based on Colossians 4:6, which says, let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt. I'm so salty sometimes. That's the only thing I can think of. I'm salty. So that you may know how you ought to answer each other. That's huge. So she writes, sometimes God's word can feel like an impossible order, don't you think? Take today's passage, for example. Paul told us we are to let our words be gracious. The NIV actually reads full of grace. Full of it. Full of it. Not full of that, full of grace. As in, the bulk of our words should be made up of grace towards the person with whom we are talking to. Not partial grace, not halfway grace, all the way grace. All the way grace. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but it's hard. Especially with those who have not selectively hurt you, but those who have righteously meant to hurt you. Grace has its most difficult points at times. So much so that the last thing you ever want to do is extend grace to that person or those people or that organization or somebody you feel like just blocked you, shunned you. It's hard. It's hard when one of the precious people living in your house does something irresponsible for the 10th time. It's hard when a trusted friend deeply wounds you. It's incredibly hard when people share their thoughts and opinions so freely and carelessly on social media, leaving you feeling frustrated, angry, and sometimes even personally attacked. I don't know about you, but words laced with grace aren't typically the first ones that come to mind when someone's hurtful words have landed daggers into my heart. Grace is not easy when someone has led with hurting you in the worst way. I want to defend myself and point out how they're misunderstanding my intentions. But just because speaking with grace is hard doesn't mean it's impossible. Roger says, I think people don't give themselves enough grace, so it's hard to give others grace. Oh, you are so spot on, Roger. I think if we open doors for ourselves, then we can be better at expecting the grace is the path to peace. 100% Roger, because when you think about it, I always tell people, go ahead, beat me up, because nobody is harder on me than me. You can ask my teams. You can ask my husband. I'm not the person who wants to blame everybody else. I'm the person who does not want to extend myself grace. That has been difficult. Roger, thank you so much for saying that, because it's almost like you're preaching to me, kind of, because I don't do that well, and we all need to be better at that 100%. But just because speaking with grace is hard doesn't mean it's impossible. And Paul's words to the Colossians remind us that our words matter. Paul specifically wanted us to consider our words in light of unbelievers, telling us in Colossians 4, 5, and 6, walk in wisdom towards outsiders, making the best use of the time. Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. And look at how Jesus modeled grace and truth in John 1:14, which says, the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. Every instance in the New Testament where we see grace and truth together is always connected to Jesus. We are to be people of truth with grace-filled words. People who choose healing and helpful words. Because whether we realize it or not, believers and unbelievers alike are listening intently to the words that we speak. They're reading the words we type, and our words testify to the kind of relationship we have with Jesus and the kind of effect he has had to our hearts. So where is the hope in the midst of the words that make our pulses race and our faces flush and we get pissed? How do we keep our words full of grace? We remember that Jesus doesn't offer us partial grace. Hear that again. Jesus does not offer us partial grace. He doesn't offer us halfway grace. Jesus gave and continued to give all the way grace. Grace that took him all the way to the cross. Oh, how we need to let this truth interrupt us and redirect us. The divine grace we receive from Christ should fuel our gracious natures and fill our conversations. Because we are people who desperately need grace, we should be people who lavishly give grace. And not only are we to be gracious in our speech, Paul also told us our words should be seasoned with salt. In tradition, this phrase would have been associated with wisdom. In Roman literature, it meant to be winsome or witty in speech. You know me, always trying to be witty. You know, witty, funny, seasoned with salt. You know, kind of like that. Paul was reminding the Colossians they were called to be people filled with godly wisdom, to be able to respond to objections to the gospel in a manner that was winsome. He wanted their words and ours to attract people to Christ, not repel them. I don't know who put grace to the test in your life, but I know the Holy Spirit is willing to help us choose grace-filled words, if only we will pause long enough for him to replace the first ones that may pop into our brain. Again, let's rephrase that. I don't know who's testing you right now or testing your grace, but what I know that God wants is he wants us to respond with grace in our words. But in order to do that, we have to pause a moment and not emotionally respond immediately, because we need to replace those emotional responses that pop up in our brains, our very sinful brains, the ones who want to protect and defend ourselves, right? But even after that, we can also pre-decide that today, because of the grace of Jesus, we will choose the way of grace. With his help, we can speak with honor in the midst of being dishonored. We can speak with peace in the midst of being threatened. We can speak of good things in the midst of bad situations. Lord, may this be true of us. May our words reflect that we know Jesus, love Jesus, and spend time with Jesus. Her prayer with this was, God, I want to pause for a moment and thank you for your son, Jesus. He could have held back his grace, but instead, he chose to pour out every single drop of grace for me on the cross. So remind me that I give grace because I so desperately need it, even when it feels super hard and honestly sometimes undeserved with people I'm in a relationship with. Man, that is so good. That is so good. Grace, giving grace. It's easy for the little stuff, right? It's easy to show grace to my grandkids. It's easy to, those people that I love. Oh, they didn't let me love them through it. But when somebody is coming for you, when somebody has got the knife up and they are ready to put it in your back, when somebody wants to discredit you, when somebody wants to take everything that you feel ethical about and they want to come for it, and they want to in some way soil everything that you've built, everything that you are part, that makes you who you are, stop. I know how you want to respond in the moment, because as I sit here and think about different things in my own life, I can get myself in my brain completely riled up again to go, oh, I've got to come back for you for this. But in reality, if I pause and say, but what would Jesus do in this moment? How would he respond? And you take a breath. And you take a step back, I guarantee that your reaction and your words will be different. And when you feel yourself do the same thing, maybe not at that category 9, that somebody's done it to you, and maybe something's happened with you and you're like, what is wrong with me? Have you ever done that? I do it all the time. I could be the person with a wall just sitting in front of me. What are you doing, Molly, you dummy? What in the world were you thinking? Boom, boom, boom. I need to stop and I need to say, Molly, at the time you probably thought that was right. It's not. Do better, Molly. Extend yourself some grace, Molly. Know that you just reacted in the moment, but when I address it and I tell myself and I show myself grace, that reminder is going to come back and say, don't respond the same way. Think before you do. Lee says, Roger first says, once we give grace, we have to let it go. I know sometimes I still hold it and not free my mind to move on completely. You're right, Roger. It's hard sometimes to let it go. Forgiving is the same thing. I think they're two different things, grace and forgiveness. But we do that. We say we forgive, but when we hold on to it, because I get it, you can't forget it. But there's a difference between still knowing it happened and holding on to it. I 100% get you. You're right. You got to let it go then and go, okay, onward, no matter what. I'm going to go forth. I'm going to do better. I'm going to respond differently. I'm going to show myself grace. Because if I can do it more with myself, I will certainly recognize that I need to do it more with other people. Lee says, you often remind me that God's revenge department doesn't have a help wanted sign outside of it. I have to remind Lee of that quite often. Yes. That it's not up to us to hit people like they hit us, to damage people the way they try to damage us. I have a lot of haters, but most of them hate me secretly. Does that make sense? Like, they would never come out and tell me they hate me, right? But or maybe it's strong dislike. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But I have some who are very, 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 very vocal about it. Not to me, because there's been every opportunity for them to come to me and tell me exactly what they think, but they don't. They don't. They choose to do it behind the closed doors of groups. They chose to run their mouth and not ask me. They choose to try to turn others against me. And I've had people who have sent these things to me who have said, I don't understand. You never respond. Do you ever get, and I said, no, I don't. I don't. Because this is the one thing I've learned in all these years of gaining a following in social media. And if I'm going to continue to do the things that I do, there's always going to be some. I figure that out. But for those people, the way that they lash about me, especially if they don't come to me, the truth of the matter is that is really more about them than it is about me. There is something that is lacking in them that they don't like how people respond to me. You know? Like maybe they wish people would respond to them the way that people respond to me. And it's never going to work well for you to consistently be out in a social media platform in any ways to trash somebody, because people after a while start looking at you like, why? We don't ever see that person say anything about you. That person is trying to help people. That person's just sharing their life. What is the problem? And I believe that sometimes the best thing for me to do is laugh about it, show them some grace, and not say a word about it, because it's never been important enough for them to come to me. But they keep taking it to everybody else. And what they don't realize is what they're doing is for somebody who doesn't know me. Yeah, love you, Roger. Talk soon. They don't realize that all they do is drive people towards me, because then people want to know, who is this person? So I will say right here out in public, thank you so much for driving people to my social media. Love you, showing you grace. Keep doing that thing you're doing, because you're helping me and you don't even know it. So that's a good thing. So sometimes showing grace can be very beneficial to you. But mostly it will make you feel better about yourself. You don't have to have the last word. Don't Meeting hate with hate is never going to win. No matter what anybody tells you, it's never going to win. I don't care if somebody has done the wrongest thing to you, however bad that can be. It is never going to help you grow, help you get past something, for you to hate or dislike them for their wrongdoing, for what they've done. You have got to figure out how to let it go. Don't set yourself up to do it again, but you have to figure out how to show grace and forgiveness, and maybe love them from over there. That's okay too. You can do that. But don't hold on. Holding on is only going to hurt you in the end, 100% of the time. Okay, that's what we have for today. And what I would say is, if you're watching this on replay or you're watching this on YouTube, if you have a prayer request, anything, please feel free to drop it. We would love to add you to the prayer list. If you've got somebody, even if it's an unspoken request and you don't want to share it publicly, just, you know what, Molly, pray for me. God knows, because he does. He knows. And the other thing I would say to you is what Roger said a little bit earlier. Please make sure in all things you're extending grace to yourself first, which will sometimes help you then exchange and put grace out there for other people. And be better in as many areas as you can. Be a better person. When somebody wants to respond with hatefulness, there is a way to come back at that and to basically say, I'm not even going to partake in this, because you coming back with the same degree of hate doesn't make you look any better than the person who served you the plate of hate to begin with. So try it. It's not going to be easy. I need you to know this is not an easy feat. I'm not just going, come on, show some grace, be graceful. Come on, you can do it. I struggle with this a lot. That part of me inside that just wants to come back and lash the way I know I can, the way I have in the past. It is hard. It is so hard. And I have got to take a step back and remove the emotion from the situation. Show grace when I can. And remove myself from the situation when it's necessary. You'll know. If you're listening, He's going to direct you on what to do. That's who God is. You just got to be willing to get off on the right exit and not the exit you think is good. Because there is no exit that's better than His, 100% of the time. Have a wonderful Tuesday, everybody. Go forth, do better, show grace. Talk soon.